Hi, in this video, I'm going to briefly review the occupational justice consideration section of the Capstone proposal. This section is really important not only because occupational justice is a core element to our program, and so we want to make sure it's threaded through all of the work we do, including your final capstone experience and project. But also, it can really be impactful in the work that you're doing. Some of you may have very occupational justice centered capstones, which is great. So, this will kind of help you think through some of those considerations and potentially use that in developing deliverables and other elements of your capstone. But regardless if it's more central or kind of more peripheral to your capstone work, these considerations are very important because they are very impactful in the work you'll be doing this summer and the work that we all do as occupational therapy practitioners. So on the screen here is a framework for occupational justice. Um, and I'll just scroll up here. This is from an article called Occupational Justice, a Conceptual Review from the Journal of Occupational Science. So this is an important article to refresh your memory if you've read it before or to make sure you read pretty thoroughly. And I'm going to scroll back down. So the entire article can be a very helpful resource, but I think this figure is a really good place to also kind of center your thinking around how does occupational justice kind of concepts and factors, so these structural factors that you see, contextual factors, and occupational outcomes, what is kind of the most relevant to your capstone work and the communities that you're going to be working with? So thinking about economic factors, policy factors, cultural values and attitudes, housing, education, employment, transportation, access to recreational facilities, environmental accessibility, technology. So there's a lot of different elements. So you can kind of think through what is the most relevant. There's also personal kind of factors that you'll want to consider in terms of age, gender, um, sexuality, disability or ability, again, economic status, religion, ethnicity, rural or urban, access to housing, whether or not someone is homeless. So again, this is a really good place to start and to really think about which of these factors do you really want to dig into and kind of understand a little bit more how this might impact your work, and also what might be some ways that you can address these issues in your work, or whether that's raising awareness about these considerations or developing, deliverables again that look at them. Um, so I'm gonna share a little bit more content here. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's kind of two things to kind of start with. What are the relevant considerations using that framework we just reviewed, and how are you going to address these in your capstone work? So again, here's some ones that often come up in capstone. Some additional questions to consider as you're thinking through this, and it might help you kind of make those connections to those factors and that framework. So, who receives services at your site? And in what ways are the clients, communities, and populations that you'll be working with diverse, or are they more homogeneous? Are the majority of clients or community members you're working with from a marginalized or stigmatized group? In what ways might they experience stigma or discrimination? Are there current assessments or practices at the site that capture these differences between clients and some of these factors? Thinking about how inequities and health disparities impact clients within the site. And again, maybe something to think about is do things need to be updated to promote more inclusive or equitable quick care across the people served? And what steps could you take, right, to promote accessibility, to promote equity, inclusion, and diversity within the work that you're doing, and address some of those potential occupational injustices you may have identified? So these are some questions that'll hopefully get you thinking. And certainly you can share these with your site if you're having conversations with them about some of these issues. I think another good place to go to is the literature and research. So, for example, if you are working with people with spinal cord injury and want to go in and search spinal cord injury and health equity or spinal cord injury and social determinants of health, that can be really good in highlighting some literature that's probably out there that'll help you identify, where's the research been done that shows, people with spinal cord injury have difficulties accessing, certain types of healthcare or have kind of specific issues within the healthcare system. So that can be really helpful. So I'd highly recommend speaking to your site about some of these as feels appropriate, looking at the literature to identify where some of these issues may lie, and also looking at, again, the occupational justice to start making those connections that maybe are not in the literature, but maybe you want to explore a little bit more with your capstone. There's also other resources, and these are on the Moodle page. But for example, like Healthy People 3030, um, some stuff from the CDC, and their census data can be helpful here in identifying kind of who is living where and what might be some considerations in that way. There's also the Kaiser Family Foundation, or KFF. They're a really great resource for health policy, and kind of breaking down some of those considerations. There's also the health justice work from Portland State University that has a lot of resources that focus again on health equity, social determinants of health, and some of those other considerations. So please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions about resources and how to kind of think about this section. But again, these are important considerations that you'll want to bring into the rest of your proposal. Thanks.